Hi everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today I am going to go over some of the do's and don'ts of reaching out to recruiters and or hiring managers on LinkedIn. I hope you find this video to be super informative because I have been working in talent acquisition for 12 years, so I have been on the receiving end of thousands of messages from people who are looking for work, and B, I'm currently laid off myself, and now I'm the one who's going out there and reaching out to recruiters and hiring managers in hopes that they will see my LinkedIn profile, see my resume, and move me to the top of the long list of applicants that have applied to all of the open positions. So let's get started in talking about those do's and don'ts on how to reach out to recruiters on LinkedIn. Step number one, and this is so important, before you reach out to anybody on LinkedIn, whether it be a recruiter or a hiring manager, make sure you go directly to the company's career page to take a look at all of the current openings that they have available. If you see a position that you are interested in and that you feel you're qualified for, go ahead and submit your application. Because I'll tell you what, before you will not be able to get an interview until you submit your application. So you're going to have to do it anyway, so you might as well do it before you reach out to the recruiter, because this shows that you are very interested in the position and you're willing to take the steps that are needed in order to be considered for the position, which that first step is to fill out an application. Once you've filled out that application, then you're going to do the research to try to figure out which recruiter and or hiring manager makes the most sense for you to reach out to. This is also very, very important. For instance, when I worked at PayPal, in my headline on my LinkedIn profile, I stated that I recruited specifically for sales positions at PayPal. I constantly got messages from people that were trying to connect with me about systems engineer positions or product management roles that I had know nothing about. I don't know who's recruiting for those positions. I don't know who the hiring manager is for those positions. So if possible, make sure you're targeting your message towards a recruiter or hiring manager that makes the most sense for you to reach out to about the position. Now, some recruiters don't necessarily state exactly what types of roles that they recruit for. They should, but some don't. And that's fine. But make sure you're doing your research and try to find that one that is recruiting for the type of role that you're interested in, or at least in, if it's a tech recruiter versus a non-tech recruiter and you're interested in a tech position, don't waste your time reaching out to a non-tech recruiter because they don't know anything about the position, and chances are your resume will never get in the hands of the person that it needs to be in. I'm just going to lay it out there. That's just the way it is. Another thing that you want to keep into account too is that you want to reach out to people that are active on LinkedIn. So most recruiters, as they should be, are pretty active on LinkedIn. Their LinkedIn profile is completely filled out. They talk about what they currently recruit for. They comment or like other posts on LinkedIn. You can tell that they are actively on LinkedIn and pay attention to their messages as they should be. Now, hiring managers, on the other hand, some hiring managers aren't very active on LinkedIn. They may have a LinkedIn profile and just have like what their title is, but if it doesn't look like they've commented or liked any posts in a very long time, if they don't have a picture on their LinkedIn profile, if they just have their titles and not talking about what it is that they do, chances are they're not actively reviewing or looking at messages that they receive on LinkedIn. So don't waste your time reaching out to someone who does not look like they're active on LinkedIn. It's better to reach out to somebody on LinkedIn who is active, who may not necessarily be the exact person you should be reaching out to, than reaching out to someone who maybe is the exact person you should be reaching out to, but is never on LinkedIn. So just keep that in mind when you are determining who you're going to be reaching out to on LinkedIn. All right, so you found the best person that you feel you should be reaching out to about the position that you're interested in. Now, there's two ways of going about doing this. If you have a LinkedIn Premium account, you can go ahead and send them an email, a full-on message right away without being connected to them. If you don't have a LinkedIn Premium account, which is an extra cost, by the way, then you will probably need to connect with them first in order to be able to send them a message. If you want to connect with a recruiter or hiring manager on LinkedIn, it's very, very important that you send a little message with your connection request. So when you go on there and you hit connect, you have an opportunity to send a little message. So here's an example of a message that I would send out to someone that I'm trying to connect with if I saw a recruiter position that I was interested in applying to. Hi, Jane. I recently saw a job posting for an amazing recruiter opportunity at ABC Company and would love to learn more. Let's connect. So I'd send out that connection request. Once they accept my connection request, then I can go back and send them a full-on message. Now, I personally have a LinkedIn Premium account, so I don't necessarily need to connect with them first in order to send them a message, but it never hurts to connect with them and build your network anyway. So let's say they've now accepted your connection request, or you're going to skip that step and go ahead and just send them a message. It's important that the message that you send to them has a couple of aspects to it. You want to keep this in mind when sending out a message. Number one, keep it personable, right? You want to show your personality a little bit through the message. Be friendly. Don't cut directly to, like, I've applied to a position, here's my resume. You want it to be a little bit more bubbly. You want it to stand out from other messages that they've received. You want them to see a little bit of your personality in that message. But you also want to make sure you're sticking to the point and not going off on too large of a tangent, right? And also show them how you will bring value to their company. That's also very important. Recruiters and managers want to make sure that they're hiring the best candidate for the position. So this is your opportunity to just give a couple of sentences as far as how you would be able to create impact in the role if you were selected. So here's an example of a message that I sent out to a recruiter about a position that I saw open. Now, there's a lot of kind of going back and forth on should you send out a long message or a short message. I guess it depends on the role that you're interested in. My messages tend to be a little bit longer because I want them to see my personality. I want to build that rapport with them, especially because the people that I'm reaching out to are recruiting professionals just like myself. Now, if I was in a totally different industry reaching out to a recruiter, I would probably keep my message to be a little bit more short and sweet. But because we're in the same field, I'm hoping to kind of build that rapport with them, before I even have a conversation with them. So here's an example of a message that I'd send out to a hiring manager about a position that I saw on their website. Hi, Jane. I hope you are having a great week. I saw a great opportunity at ABC Company for a senior sales recruiter, and after doing some research of the company and reading some of the reviews from employees on Glassdoor, I knew this was a company that I would love to join and submitted my application. Given the recent layoffs that have greatly impacted talent acquisition professionals, myself included, I wanted to reach out to you directly to introduce myself. A little bit about me. My name is Ashley, and I have been in talent acquisition for 12 years. I have recruited for almost every position under the sun. Most recently, I worked for PayPal as a senior talent sourcer, where I focused on sourcing for sales positions, which included enterprise sales, customer success, global accounts, and inside sales. I know that my experience at PayPal recruiting for high-level sales professionals will be perfect for this position. I've attached a copy of my resume to this message. I hope that you find my background to be an excellent match for this position, and that I get an opportunity to speak to you about possibly joining ABC Company. I hope you have a fantastic day. Ashley Feldman, and then I included my email, my phone number. At the end of the message, it's also a good idea to include a PS. So in this message, this is what I put as a little PS. PS, if I should be reaching out to one of your colleagues, please do feel free to pass my resume and info along. Thanks. Because even as a recruiter, I could do as much research as possible to try to make sure I'm reaching out to the correct recruiter or the correct hiring manager. Sometimes I'm not. So if you do a little bit of a PS at the end, giving them permission to pass along your information just in case they're not the right person that you should be reaching out to, that goes a long way. And you have a little bit of a better chance that they are going to be sending your information along. So I wanted to dissect this message a little bit, kind of point out a couple of things and why I sent this message the way I did. Now, I know it's a little bit long, so I know some of you out there are probably thinking that's way too long of a message to be sending a recruiter. I personally don't think so. If I received a message like this, I would probably read it all through the end. And I may not necessarily, and every recruiter may not read a whole long message, but they'll at least get some bits and pieces of it. And I stated, my first paragraph, I stated exactly the role that I applied to, and I made note that I applied to the position. If you have a requisition number, include that in there as well. That's always a great idea. I also talked about how I did a little bit of research on the company first. This goes a long way because this shows that you're not just applying to a bunch of positions just to apply. Showing that you did research on the company, you utilized Glassdoor, shows that I am very interested in the opportunity and I know a little bit about the company and the culture ahead of time. I also put in a little bit of a paragraph about the fact that there are so many talent acquisition people currently applying to positions and that there's a number of layoffs. I wanted to make note that I was laid off. I don't want them to go to my LinkedIn profile or see on my resume that I'm no longer with PayPal and assume that I was fired. So I make note of the fact that I was laid off from the position and why I'm contacting them directly, because there are so many people that are impacted by layoffs at this time. That is why I'm reaching out to you directly. And then I talk a little bit about myself. Now, I have 12 years of recruiting experience. I've recruited for so many different positions, as I mentioned in that paragraph. But I picked out my role at PayPal because that role closely aligns with the position that I was applying to. I've also applied to other companies that were going to be doing more engineering recruiting, which I've done in the past when I worked for an energy company. So another message that I sent out to a recruiting manager was for an energy company. So I very briefly mentioned my role at PayPal because it was my most recent and mentioned that I was laid off, but I didn't go into detail about my sales recruiting experience because that doesn't pertain to the position that I'm applying to. I focused more on my experience at Exelon and how and what types of engineers I recruited for and roles that I recruited there, because that's going to be the experience that's going to jump out at the recruiter. If you noticed in this message to this sales recruiter position, I did not mention my job at Exelon because that had nothing to do with this role that I'm applying to. So make sure that you are including a couple of sentences about a role that closely has to do with the position that you are applying to. And then at the end, I just kind of did a quick little ending, letting them know that I've attached my resume, thanking them for taking the time to review my message, review my resume, and, kind of just wrapped up the message with a little bow in a very nice way and, wishing them a great day. I also included my contact information. So if they want to send me an email directly or if they have my phone number, they have everything that they need to be able to contact me. And then as I mentioned at the end, I put that little PS on there in case they are not the right person to reach out to, giving them permission to go ahead and pass along my information to whoever they feel might be a better fit for me to connect with. So that's it. That's how I send out my messages. Now, like I said, make sure the biggest thing you want to make sure that you're doing is that you're reaching out to a recruiter for a position or with a specific position. I have gotten so many messages from people who have reached out to me on LinkedIn and just sent me their resume and said, let me know if you have something that fits my background. Please do not do that. It should be your job to do your research and to find a very specific position that you're interested in and talk about that in the message. That will give them a better chance to be able to pass along your information. Now, if I get somebody who is looking for a tech position and they reach out to me about sales and I do sales recruiting, but they give me a specific role that they're interested in, I can look up that position by the position number in our applicant tracking system and see who the recruiter is, and I would send their resume over to that recruiter. Now, what they do from there is up to them. I'm not going to follow up and do all of that. But so having a very specific position is important because if it's not the recruiter that's working on that position, they can easily find out who it is and pass your information over to them directly. Or maybe they might give you that name of that recruiter and you can reach out to them yourself. So just that is like my biggest thing. Obviously, if you want to make sure you're sending good messages out, but like my biggest thing is just please make sure that you are reaching out and you have a very specific role in mind. I've done this with reaching out to a couple of recruiters recently, and it's been iffy, right? So I've gotten a couple of responses. Some people didn't respond. I responded to one. I saw a position that I thought was like perfect. I was so interested in the position. I sent out a similar message to what I shared with you guys. She did respond. Unfortunately, they had just made an offer, so I missed out on that position, unfortunately. But she responded and thanked me for my message. I also sent this message out for an energy company, and I landed an interview. I'm interviewing with them this week. And who knows if they would have seen my application in the mound of applications that they're going through if I didn't connect with him on LinkedIn and send him a message directly. And then most recently, I did this to a company on last week, Thursday, sent out a message to the recruiter, and she contacted me the next day. We had a phone interview and it went well, and she wants to move me on to the interview portion. And she even made a comment like, "Thank you so much for reaching out to me on LinkedIn, because I did not see your resume." And I had reached out, I had applied to that position maybe like a week earlier and hadn't heard anything. So I thought, you know what, let me send her a LinkedIn message. And she even said, like, I have so many applications I'm going through. You know, we are in the final stages. We do have 2 final candidates that we're looking at for this position, but I'd love to put you in the mix. So if I didn't send that LinkedIn message to her, I would never have had that conversation, and I would have never gotten an interview. So it really does work, but it's not going to work every time. You reach out to a recruiter, they don't get back to you. It happens. I'm guilty of it. I was in recruiting for many years. There's times where I don't have an opportunity to get back to candidates. You have a lot going on if it's not a right fit. So that's very important that you're reaching out about specific positions to the right recruiter, because you have a better chance of getting a good response rate. But keep doing it. So let me know. Let me know in the comments below. Do you reach out to recruiters or hiring managers when you're looking for a position? Have you had success in that? I want to hear from you, and I hope that you guys found this video very informative. Please feel free to comment with any other additional questions that you have. I would love to be able to help you guys out if you're currently in the process of trying to find a new position and you're not quite sure how to reach out to people on LinkedIn. I would love to be able to help you with that. So thank you so much for watching my video. I hope you all have a great day, and I will see you at the next one.